Hello, film fans. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Martin Harries, your host, and I'm joined by the film encyclopedia man, Boaz Dix. We are a couple of filmmakers on occasion, but mainly can't stop yapping about movies. On this podcast, every episode we pick a topic from a film that's coming out at the cinema or on VOD. Myself and Boaz pick our favourite film from that topic, and we battle it out to decide which film will become the greatest film of all time, according to two film geeks from Wiltshire, England. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave us a review and subscribe. Hello, Podsters. This week, as Wrath of Man comes out in the US, we are doing, you've guessed it already because of my amazing accent, Jason Statham films.
That was terrible.
No, it wasn't. It was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
As ever, you've heard him already. It is Boaz Dix.
You mean it's Boaz Dix?
Boaz
You
Dix.
slag. Yeah.
All right, no more voices now.
Oh, we're going to alienate our Cockney fans. Let's do it all Cockney.
So we need a translator now for the past 30 seconds for the Americans. Yeah, it's Jason Statham films, just to be clear.
Exactly.
All right. How are you? You all right?
I'm doing fine. Still alive.
Good.
Yeah.
Yep, I am currently still alive.
Yeah, after that Jason Statham marathon. Just barely. Yeah.
Or rather, we should call this podcast the Shit Films Podcast. Or Shit Low-Budget Action Films.
Exactly.
Statham
Starring
does.
Jason Statham, yeah. The only ones he can really get his hands on. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
poor
know.
guy.
Poor
He
guy.
just wants to do Shakespeare.
I know. We should set up a fund for him, a charity. Jason
Yeah.
Statham.
Please give him a Shakespeare movie.
Yeah. To be or not to be, you slag. Anyway.
So, Mr. Encyclopedia Man, what is your film for Jason Statham films?
So, from translator to transporter. Aha, you see what I did there? It's the transporter.
Nice.
That was a more convincing laugh than your Jason Statham impression.
All right.
Yeah, exactly.
So why did you pick the transporter?
You know, I've never been a huge Jason Statham action movie buff or whatever and watched loads of them. And in fact, actually, this was the first film I ever watched with Jason Statham. Even before,
really?
Yeah, even before Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and stuff like that, where he was doing more, Guy Ritchie, small time, funny crook films.
Yeah.
This was in his period when I was younger, when he was doing the action films, and this is one of the very few that I actually watched. And I don't know, it's a short film, it's an okay film. It's got some really cool fight scenes and stuff. So yeah,
It's interesting with, Jason Statham's career because certainly later on now he's doing he's in the Fast and Furious franchise, doing the Meg, these bigger budget films, and I don't think that's no surprise really, because I just don't think Hollywood is willing to make these type of films anymore, like The Transporter and Crank. If you're going to pitch this type of film, this mid-budget, 60, 50 million budget film, pretty much all the major studios in Hollywood are going to say no, But if they pitch it to Netflix or Amazon, they're going to pick it up. They'll make it. They'll be like, yeah, okay, fine. Just Hollywood's just not willing to make these type of films anymore. So it's very much of its time, this early noughties period of just crazy action,
yeah.
Because if it hasn't got a superhero in it or something like that, aliens, people ain't gonna go see it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely it's a thing of its time of it kind of reminds me of other films in the same area where Jet Li was doing a lot of short crazy action movies and other Chinese Hollywood stars, and then you had Jason Statham also getting in on that action and a few other actors just doing these really crazy short films of again, as you say, mid budget martial art movies.
So what happens in The Transporter?
So it follows a transporter, no surprise there, played by Jason Statham, no surprise there. And he transports anything. He's like a criminal, So whatever you need moving, he'll move it. And he's very meticulous with his rules, and he never breaks them. So I love the... well, no. Yeah, so basically this film is, he breaks his one rule, and shit, breaks loose, you know. And so anyway, so the main plot of the film is he's told to transport this cargo. He decides to look in the boot. Actually, he gets a flat tire, and then as he's replacing the flat, when he opens the boot, he realizes there's a person he's transporting in the back. You know, he tries to ignore it, but then he, you know, opens it up and stuff like that. And it just it kind of escalates with the gang trying to kill him because he opened the cargo, and she's trying to get him to save like hundreds of people that are being like smuggled into the country, you know, as like slaves and stuff. That's basically the plot, and it's action ensues.
So directing then, yeah, I mean some of the action is really well done, actually, fairly slick. I certainly like the opening chase is quite cool.
Yeah,
it's kind of typically cut together. I think for a car chase, there's nothing particularly special, I wouldn't say. But there's some nice cuts with the gear stick, and there's one shot where when the camera like spins around does like a 360 on the gear stick really quickly, which is quite cool. Yeah, really slick action from Corey Young, who directs this film. But the jump across the bridge onto the car carrier is just like, what the fuck? It's just bit ridiculous. The fact that the car literally hits the curb, hops over the fence or the railing, and lands on the car carrier perfectly with I mean, yeah, it is
pretty crazy. It's a magical car.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, he has a speed up of about 3 meters before he jumps over.
Yeah.
and you know, and doesn't move on the car carrier at all.
Crazy.
But there we
go.
Yeah. I mean, if Chris Nolan could do that for real, then my God, that's an incredible scene.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was pretty crazy. I liked how the fact that he was on the car truck thing, and they kept chasing him, and he's like, "Give me a gun," and like shoots off cars into police cars. Well, that was pretty cool. Yeah, no, it was a really cool scene. You know, yeah, it's great just opening up the film with just an action scene. Well, a high stakes car chase like that. Show everybody what this character's about. You know? Yeah.
Some of the music choices is a bit weird, like when Frank Martin cuts a hole in the mouth of the girl he finds in the boot because he's got duct tape over her mouth, and there's like this, you know, to give her a drink, and then there's this weird like romantic music.
Yeah, it's quite strange.
It's just a bit odd. I'm like, huh? I mean. Why are we supposed to have like romantic music right now? It's like, oh, okay. The film is basically telling us there's going to be a romance in this film, even though they've only met each other for like 2 seconds.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, it is kind of weird. I don't really buy the romance in this film. It is a bit strange.
It's just typical action movie romance, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm big, strong man. Save you. You love me.
Please have sexy time with me later on in the film where it's appropriate. Which I'll get onto in screenplay, but there we go.
Yeah, I don't know. I found that kind of strange.
I mean, when the bomb goes off in the car, I mean, they couldn't have telegraphed that more, to be honest. You could see that coming from a mile off.
Yeah. Oh, I do love when he gets his revenge, though, and he goes straight back to the house, and you have another cool action. Yeah. Well, this time it's like his first like proper big martial arts scene, and just how he's kicking the crap out of everybody. Yeah,
that's actually my favorite scene. And
oh man, I thought it was great. And you know, they're going at him with axes, and it's just the way the cameras move it's so frenetic, and it's like, oh man, it's great. And then I love the use of, so you go through all of that action and all of that shooting and fighting and what have you, and then he steals the guy's car, you know, to replace his car. And I love how he's driving off, like racing off, and then turns off the radio, and it's like the pumping soundtrack that was during the whole fight scene is coming out of the radio. I like that. It's small things like that I quite like, you know. Yeah,
my favourite shot is actually in that scene right at the start where, you know, Frank rings the doorbell, and then you get like the POV shot of the peephole in the door, and he just runs
and his leg
at
comes
it and
straight
kicks it.
Yeah.
That was great.
That was really good.
I love the way he like flings up like the green cloth, because there's some goons like gambling, playing cards, and he flicks up the cloth which has the gun on it, and then does a spinny thing and catches it behind his back in slow motion. That was really cool.
Yeah.
And some of the big kicks, you know, Statham does is really impressive. There's one like really big long one at the end to take out the last guy, which was quite impressive. Not Bruce Lee impressive, but you know, still pretty impressive, I thought. Going back to like the bomb in the car, the fact that it was so telegraphed. The scene before is just the way the bad guys were, in that mansion, the way they just give him the case. And then when he stops for a drink, the way Frank Martin just is like walking towards the car and then turns back to get some drinks. And then there's just this massive wide shot of him walking back with the car in full view. You couldn't really telegraph that more. Quite frankly.
Yeah, they should have had a ticking noise,
Yeah, it was just like, something's dramatic going to happen soon.
Yeah.
So have you got a favourite shot or scene?
Oh, man. Well, favourite scene is, I think, the fight in the warehouse.
Oh, right, yeah.
Well, it's not a warehouse. What is it? It's like a bus depot.
Yeah.
Because we were discussing this, the oil bit, where... It's just
You're
such
all
a
covered
weird.
in oil.
It's such a weird idea for a fight scene, but
it's really clever though. I like the cleverness they're trying to apply to the film because obviously all the goons are trying to grab him, but they all like slip off.
Because to start with, he's kicking the crap out of the big Chinese guy who you've seen be like a right hand man, and he's quite threatening. He's quite big, and he does start beating him up, and then all these other guys come, and it's a bit too much for him to handle. He's not a superhuman or something. So they're kicking the shit out of him a bit. And then he starts just smashing over all the grease and then covers himself in it. And it's great. They can't grab him. They're slipping off. But he can hit them. And then he does like the weirdest thing to stop him from slipping all over the floor. He takes a bicycle and smashes off the pedals. Yeah. He's able to, walk around. And
of course, in movie world, he won't slip up.
He won't slip up. Yeah. These are anti-slip pedals, grease-proof. But and he just kicks a ton of ass. I do like a lot of the action in the film. The one thing I don't like, as a special effect in the film is it's like all the fighting is great, all the punching, the kicking, ass kicking, and all that stuff, and the choreography good. But anytime they start shooting bullets, I'm just
they have these weird flares, don't they?
It's like it becomes
bullet trails.
It becomes Star Wars. Like these aren't bullets; these are blasters. These are lasers. Like you see the size of these goddamn. It's just so crazy. It's like these giant yellow lines.
I didn't mind that so much. I thought it was quite.
No, I thought it was weird. I don't think I ever got used to it. It's like
not realistic at all.
It's not realistic at all. The first time, when he gets into that, the fight at their base, and he comes, the one we just discussed, comes kicking through the door, kicks the crap out of all these guys. The first time that they then start firing bullets, it always shocks me out of the film of just like, whoa, this is not. Is this how the guns are? And they're like that through the rest of the movie. It's like these are space lasers. These belong in Star Trek.
Well, maybe the mob boss was like, right, guys, I'm going to give you flaring bullets so you can shoot the guys better because you're really terrible shots. We got screwed over last time, so practice with these. Yeah, then you'll be able to hit your target
and
more.
still be terrible. Yeah. Or these are plainclothes stormtroopers, and they
because that's what they did in the Second World War. The Spitfires
tracer rounds.
They used tracer rounds, so they could shoot the Germans easier.
Yeah, but even this, like I've seen tracer fire in a film like in Fury, and even tracer fire in that, and I've seen real tracer fire on like things like I've seen real tracer fire on like YouTube videos, and I think on Mythbusters.
Oh right.
So I've seen real tracer fire. And even when the things light up, they're not that thick. Like
no,
these are like steel beams coming out of these guns. These trails are enormous. So other than that, the action's good. It always just takes me out seeing the bullet.
And of course, just in case your house blows up, you can have underwater breathing equipment in the underground canal. It's always a good shout.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
So what score are you giving directing for The Transporter, Mr. Encyclopedia Man? No, it's my turn because it's your film.
It's my film.
I always get that wrong. Right, yeah. I'm going to go...
You get everything wrong.
It's not fair. It's good, it's a good, like, if you got a spare Friday night or whatever, and you really can't think, if you've watched all the Marvel films over and over, and you're like, I need something different.
I think if you want a, short... basically just action film, and it's not long, and there are loads of really cool fight scenes all the way through. then yeah, just give it a shout. It's not even complicated. You don't have to use your brain. Just put it in. It's not terrible. You know,
I'll go 7.4, I think.
Yeah.
How about you, sir?
Yeah, maybe like 7.3.
All right, screenplay then. Did you like Frank Martin's rules of being a transporter?
I did. I like Frank Martin's character. He's quite a quiet man, quite a chilled out man. Just likes to keep out to himself. And just
Rule 1 is no changes of the deal. Rule 2 is no names. You know, and the way he wants to know every detail about the job is really interesting. And the way he like burns the note, you know, is quite good. And it's like it's burnt into his brain already. Yeah. He doesn't need any other evidence.
Yeah.
You know.
But I like, you know, you could tell everything about him even from the first shot where you see him in the car park and he's putting on his gloves and he's just doing everything. He's just making sure everything is
everything
correct.
has to be like clockwork and super slick, you know, like the action itself, you know. But obviously he breaks rule 3, which is quite quickly, I need to add. Never look in the package.
Exactly.
Which obviously sets off this whole film. And I alluded to it briefly as well. I just find it hilarious in action films like this when a couple, when they get out of like a narrow escape, they don't figure out a action plan of what to do next. They don't escape the country. They don't take a long nap. No, what do? They have to have some sexy time and make the lovin'.
Nothing gets you hot like a burning building.
Yes.
Yes. I speak obviously from my vast experience of arson and sex, but yeah.
They've only known each other for 5 minutes.
Yeah. I don't really I don't buy their romance. I don't know. It just seems a bit too... I don't think they have like amazing chemistry. I mean, you know, I don't know. It just seems a bit out of the blue, you know.
It just feels like the filmmakers are like, we have to be obliged to have a sex scene in there somewhere. It's like, where should we do it? Oh, right, let's do it after they have a narrow escape. That's where all the other action films put it. So
yeah, definitely. Because it kind of, I don't know, it kind of made me cringe. Because I didn't get the sense through most of it that he quite liked her.
No,
like. It's like, I think
there's no chemistry there.
There's no chemistry at all. If anything, I think, like, why is he kissing her and doing all this stuff and then trying to save these people being transported and then trying to save her? It's like, if anything, it just looks like she annoys the hell out of him. Yeah. You know? I don't know. It's just a bit strange. It's not as bad as the romance, I think, in Transporter 3. You know?
Right.
Oh my god, that was horrible.
I mean, the film does deal with some like serious subject matters as well. Like, you know, the whole plot is around people trafficking, and Leigh like shoots her own father, which is pretty dark. I mean, this is just like a pulpy action film for a character to shoot her own dad because she just doesn't like him it's pretty dark. Yeah.
Well, it's not that she doesn't like him; she loves him, but it's just he's doing something evil.
Yeah,
this is evil what he's doing. I do like her like little deception of like, you know. Well, she says that it's her father and mother in the containers.
Oh yeah, to trick Frank Martin into helping her.
I find her I think she was one of my least favorite things about the film. Actually, but, I don't know.
I don't think you're alone there.
Quite whiny. She's pretty.
Yeah, I mean there are some funny moments.
Oh yeah, I think I like anything to do with. So even when she's involved in it, but like Frank and the detective, I think their whole thing. I just love them. I think they're a great duo. Of just like they're friends, they're friendly, but it's a case of he is a criminal like Frank is, and he is doing a lot of these crimes that, you know, the detective is trying to investigate. And so yeah, it's just kind of a very strange like banter, being funny, but also trying not to be caught by this guy.
Because you feel like the detective knows that he's a criminal from the first visit. He's just Frank Martin is just incredibly careful, you know.
Oh yeah,
in particular.
Yeah. Well, I like where he meets the Leigh or whatever, who's like the new cook, quote unquote. So he tells him about his car that, you know, it was blown up with 2 cops in it. He's like, well, that car was stolen, you know. And he was like, well, how did you get home? I drove him home. Well, where's the car?
Yeah.
And then obviously he has like the stolen car, which is bashed up at the front. Oh, yeah. And I like how he's looking at it, and he's going to go to the front. Like, you have a shot from the front of the car, it's all fucked. But they managed to distract him.
I like the moment, actually, during that scene where Q Shu is there. I think that's the name of her character. And he's questioning both of them, and and saying like a risky thing picking up a stranger on a dark road, and then she says, and then she says, you know, he had a kind face, and Statham is just so funny and just like looks at her and is like, seriously, me? My face?
Yeah.
And there's other lines like, oh, what kind of shit am I in? Deep shit, very deep shit. Noodle time. Here's some noodles.
Yeah, I like that. No, I like because with that he said just simple yes or no.
Yeah.
I just want to know what I'm asking you. No more, no less.
Yeah.
It's like your name. Like I'm from. It's like shut up.
You're always complaining, except when we make love. Then you say nothing.
Yeah, that's such a cringy. That is a cringy line. Man.
Yeah, it's bad. Have you got a favorite line then?
When he's about to like, he's fully going to like rescue her and all the guys, and he's escaped jail. His escape is such a. It's like he can't let him out, and he's like, "Oh, I bet you can get this sorted in like 12 hours." He's like, "Less," and then he takes him hostage, takes the detective hostage. But it's when he goes on the boat and he says something like,
"Oh, do you need a gun?"
Yeah, you're gonna need all the help you can get. Borrow my gun. Have my gun. And he just like opens a sheet and he's got shitloads of guns.
Does he say something like, "Oh, you don't need it then"? I can't remember.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, you're gonna need my gun, and he's like, "Yeah, that was it. You're gonna need my gun," and then he shows him all that. It's like maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite simple, but kind of funny. My favorite is literally right at the start. Actually, when they finish the first car chase and he got all these robbers in the back, and he says, if you don't mind, I've just conditioned the lever back there. And then the stave unwinds the window so the robber can throw up outside the window.
Or I'll go through some other lines I quite like, actually. During the first heist where he's got those bank robbers and they're arguing about there being an additional person.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, 3 people, that was the deal. And the guy just blows the head off of one of the partners. They chuck him out. It's like, 3 people. And then they go off.
And a particular load, a particular weight. That was quite good, that opening scene, because it just gets across that this guy is proper professional and not to be messed with at all. Detective
or whatever. He's interrogating him after that bank heist. What does he say to him? He says, I think Frank says something like, "Why are you so interested in me?" He's like, "I've always been interested in, military guys." And he's like, "Well, no, I've been interested in military guys since I was a little boy." And he goes, "Well, I'm ex-military. Well, I'm an ex-little boy." I don't know. I just thought that was kind of sweet.
All right, screenplay score for me. It's a pretty straight action thriller.
Yeah, it's pretty
really
straightforward. You know what you're gonna get. There's no surprises.
I mean, the dark subject matter could leave a little bad taste in some people's mouths. I don't know. Not really to me. I just think it was just like, oh, really? Okay. They go in there. So I'll go like 6.8, I think. No, 6.7. It's not that good.
Yeah.
How about you, sir?
Go 6.4.
Acting then. We talked a little bit about the bomb that goes off, and I love the moment when Frank just like pulls his jacket on properly, and his face is just like, "Yeah, I'm going to kill all of you now for destroying my incredible car."
Yeah, no, that was a good facial expression.
Yeah, you touched on it briefly with the moment when the inspector lets Frank out of jail, and he says, "Yeah, you would be the perfect man for the job if you're out." And then he just leaves the jail door open, and he just does this like charming smile, and he has this look on his face, just like, do what you have to do. And then cut to Frank with, a gun to his head and using him as a human shield. That was cool. Any other acting moments that you liked from Jason Statham or any of the others?
Even though we've talked mainly about, Jason Statham and the female lead, Lai, or is a character name, and the detective, from the police one.
Yeah.
There is one character that's kind of less prominent than all of these, but I kind of like him a lot more, just because of just the actor, just how he portrays him. And that's Wall Street, who you think is like the main bad guy through most of the film.
Matt Schultz.
Yeah, I like just his performance of the villain. He's just really weird. Yeah. Yeah, he's just so weird, especially as soon as you meet him and like Frank's delivered the package.
You just know he's dodgy.
He's just know he's dodgy. He's just so strange. It's like he's really kind of like threatening and menacing, but he's like really slimy and then like smiley and stuff. And he's got all these nice suits and stuff, but he's really like, I don't know what you'd say, like effeminate. Like you think it was weird when he gave Frank the money and then just caressed his hand. You're like, what the fuck? I was like, this is weird. But I just really liked how he did the character. He was just like, he's just so unusual. Mm. So I thought it was always a blast when he showed up in the film.
I liked Rick Young as Leigh's father.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see him for that long, but he's always good when Rick Young turns up. He's got like a weird craziness to it.
He has got a weird craziness to it, yeah.
My favourite performance is Jason Statham, to be fair. There's not a lot of great performances, but it's his film, you know.
Yeah, it is his film. I think I should give it to Jason Statham, but there is something I think about Matt Schultz and just how weird his character is that I don't know, I just quite like. Yeah. I like also, you know, when he killed one of his own men in the hospital. He's like wiping him with his handkerchief. You didn't tell him anything, and it's like really quite homoerotic. And then he just, you know, stuffs his face with a
bit hard.
It was. He's just a weird character. I quite liked it. You know?
So I'm gonna go with 6.8. I think. How about you, sir?
Yeah, I'll go 6.8. I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of the last podcasts, you've always copied me. Well, we've always had the same score for acting.
Yeah. Maybe I should change it because maybe it's just I'm uninspired. You say,
all right. I mean, you can appreciate the action, the fight choreography. I think that was what my score was based on. Really, there's not a lot else, I wouldn't say. Right, let's add up the scores then for the Transporter. The Transporter gets 41.4. Which isn't great at all, but in this podcast, I think it's actually quite a good score compared to the other film.
Oh my god, yeah, let's get to the other film.
Right, my film is Crank from 2006. I was first introduced to this film at university, and one of my university friends was like, you have to watch this film, it's fucking crazy. I was like, okay, why not? We're students, we don't do work. Let's watch this. And my God, it was just. I mean, at the time as a teenager, like, hell yeah, this is the best film ever, you know? But now we're a bit older and it's not very good, quite frankly. But I just thought I would pick it to see if it's still good.
I think crazy is the best one word review for this film. It's just insane. It's like if you gave a 5-year-old, I don't know, like, he had to write a script in a couple of hours in crayon, and he was on LSD. You know, this is probably what he would make. It's weird. It's weird.
So what happens in Crank? Jason Statham plays a character called Chelios,
who, despite the bloody Spanish name, is played by Jason Statham. Yeah. He doesn't do an accent. He's just, Jason Statham.
I do feel like they had someone else cast, and then all of a sudden this Spanish guy dropped out. They're like, oh shit, who are we going to hire? Jason Statham.
Yeah, he's not doing anything. He's just outside the window. He's knocking. He wants work. It's like, I'm getting. It's so weird. Chev Chelios, and he's
Yeah, so he's like a professional assassin, and he wakes up from a hard night, I guess, and and he sees a DVD in his apartment saying "fuck you," and then he puts it in the TV, and he sees himself being injected by this Chinese poison that will kill him if he doesn't let his heart rate drop too low. So he basically has to be incredibly excited for the rest of the film, and then these two mob bosses get very worried about all this crazy activity that's going on, so they both decide to kill him, basically.
Yeah.
Insanity ensues. So directing then for Crank, if you show a person like one scene of just how crazy this film is, just a little snippet, like a few seconds, it would be the one where Chev decides to beat up a load of black dudes in this really like dingy club.
Yeah.
And then there's this one quick shot where it cuts outside and the building literally bulges several times when he's beating up the black dudes. I was like, what the hell is going on? Are we in a cartoon right now?
Like, the stuff that happens with the camera is just, yeah, it's fucking bizarre. There's, like, audible subtitles, so stuff that they're talking about just shows up at subtitles on the screen randomly.
Yeah.
You've got all kinds of distortions, color effects.
I quite like one clever moment where they cover up their low budget. I love it when like Chev drives through the mall and the camera just stays on him like side profile, and it's just like visual effects of the glass going past the camera, and past the car and past his face. It's just a clever way of doing it, and a funny way of doing it. Actually, a way of not actually driving through a mall. Just keep the camera on him while you do a little bit of visual effect.
Yeah, that looks so fake.
So you don't have to drive through a mall. So
yeah, that whole mall scene looks so damn fake. Especially where the car is on the escalator.
Yeah, CG's not great.
I'm like, dude, that is fake. Yeah. Although there are a lot of scenes that just look fake, but I think that's what they were going for. They're just so insane.
Yeah.
I'll just spoil straight to the end. The thing that I thought looked just horrible. Is the finale of the film was the helicopter thing, where he's falling out of a helicopter. It's such a ridiculous
He bounces
scene.
off the car.
He bounces. It's like, number one,
and is still alive.
He's fighting in a helicopter, and it just doesn't look quite right. He jumps out of the helicopter with him, strangles him. It still doesn't look real. And then he's falling, and he's falling for ages while he's on the phone.
How high did they get?
Yeah, it just doesn't make any goddamn sense. Like, did this helicopter go to space? It's like... And then,
because he makes a phone call while he's falling,
Yeah. And it's just like, you wouldn't be able to hear shit going that fast as well. You're like... He just looks like he's lying on a bed, just having a phone call. It was just such a... It's meant to be stupid, though. Like, none of it takes itself seriously. This is just...
No, not at all.
This is, if you think this is kind of an attempt at realism, you're sorely mistaken. This film is so unrealistic. It's kind of bizarre.
But there are some moments of like really crazy creativeness, which I quite liked, actually. The moment I really liked near the end, it's kind of like a breaking the fourth wall moment as well that I've never really seen before. Chev is in an elevator. He's taking loads of drugs,
There is a lot of drug use in this film.
But he takes a load of pills before he goes into this elevator to go up to the main mob boss's place before the final shootout. And there's an Asian guy in there, and he starts hallucinating, and the guy is talking to Chev in all these different voices, and then including his own.
Yeah. And his mother's.
Yeah. And then when it goes back to his Asian language, it goes to subtitles saying, "Don't you know?" ? But then there's a POV shot of the Asian guy, but with the subtitles written backwards but blurry, and it's like Chev is reading it from his perspective, and it's just
they're hung in the air like three. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit, these.
I've never seen that before.
Yeah. I thought that was a really good
crazy.
shot. Yeah, it's a really good use of subtitles. You're like, oh my god, they are actually really in the air.
I mean, is it like a fifth wall break? I'm not sure. It's weird.
It's pretty
but
cool,
I liked it.
Yeah, I thought that was a really cool shot. So again, a lot of the scenes that I'm going to say I like the camera work. They have drugs involved in them in some way. But do you remember when the Haitian gives him Haitian shit, good Haitian shit, and the subtitles only put the word shit every time he's like saying. Devil, I've got good shit, and it's good shit in subtitle. Haitian shit in subtitle. And then he goes to hand it to him, and all he sees is the black guy with it's like all black, and he's got a coloured face, like, it's all different colours and shit. That was weird. I was like, what the fuck? And then back to a regular face. I was like, what the hell is going on? It's I don't know, man. There's just a lot of trippy visuals.
I mean, there was one moment that made me laugh out loud, is when the budgie gets puffed into feathers and he gets shot.
Yeah, there were a lot of scenes. I will admit there are a lot of bits where I did chuckle a bit. Yeah, the budgie getting blown up, that was funny. Him riding on a motorbike, that was funny.
That is just weird.
I love that because He's taken like a crap load of was it epinephrine? He's got a giant hard on, which is. Do you remember where they were looking at the news and he's on the news and he's in a gown in a hospital gown, and he's like, "Have you seen this man?" And the guy looks at him and looks. And he's got and so he nicks
hard on.
He's got a hard. He nicks a police motorbike. And then all of a sudden the music changes to something like quite slow paced and stuff, and it's all he just decides to stand up on the motorbike.
Yeah, it's weird.
And do a Christ pose. Yeah.
His Titanic moment.
Yeah.
And just randomly crashes into a cafe with with outside seating.
Again, it's just Jason Statham doing crazy things. You're like, why is he doing this?
But in that particular moment, I was like, this film sometimes has no direction. I don't know where this is going, and it just becomes like a Jackass movie at times for me. It really does.
Yeah.
It's like, Jason, ride a bike and then just fall off.
No, yeah. I think...
Obviously, stunt but...
Yeah, so the character in it, Chev Chelios, I have to say, is probably the most detestable, unlikable... just horrible protagonist I think I've ever seen in a movie. I don't think there's anything redeeming about him other than the fact he's quite witty because he has to be because he's Jason Statham, and most of that wit is colourful ways of calling someone or gay, and
or a plum,
a plum. Yeah. And other than that, he is the most detestable hero I've ever seen. And is somehow invincible,
Yeah.
But it's like he's also got no subtlety in him at all. And it's like he's making trouble where there doesn't need to be trouble. He's already after a gangster and got gangs after him. But then he just gets into trouble with the police just because he can. You're like...
I mean, there are moments I did like. It starts off quite promisingly. My favourite scene is actually literally the very first one, I would say. Where the film starts with this really long POV shot of Chev Chelios, and you see his hands go all over the place in his apartment after he wakes up. And after he watches the bad guy put the drugs in his neck on the TV, he goes like nuts on the TV, smashes it up. And there's some great slow-mo freeze frames as he's going out of the apartment, out of the building. And it goes like super contrasty, like it's straight out of a comic book panel. Sometimes I quite like that opening sequence. But from there, it basically goes just crazy and nonsensical.
It is a nonsensical film. I think that's the best one.
Yeah.
And I think the epitome of cringeness and just like what the fuckness is where... is where he has sex in the middle of Chinatown.
Oh, God. That's
and
insane.
Everybody's watching him. And what's crazy is just the approval. Like, all of the people are like, yeah! There's like a bus filled with cheerleaders that are like, woo, yeah! You're like, what the fuck is going on? Kids are watching this and, the parents are trying to cover them. They're like, nah, what the hell is going on? I was just like, what on earth is going on?
Yeah, I mean, Amy Smart, who plays Eve, his girlfriend, is just obviously, he's fighting him off to start off with. And then at what point does she decide to let's have sex in the street?
Yeah, I mean, you're trying to rape me in front of exactly. How did this film get made? It's like you're trying to rape me in front of 100 Chinese people. And then it's like, yeah, sure, fuck it. Why not?
And I love it when Jason Statham is just shouting, I'm alive! I'm alive! And everyone's cheering. It's so funny.
The character is just, I've said this, he's just the worst character. If this was a just film, he should have been popped at the beginning. He's a bastard. And a lot of innocent people get seriously hurt because of this dick. Do you remember when he jumps in? Why does he do the things he does? It just doesn't make any sense.
Especially that scene when he's in the hospital and he's following the guys with there's a man in a hospital bed. He's just the worst there.
He puts a gun to the nurse. He's like, epinephrine.
I want epinephrine now.
Give me the damn epinephrine. Yeah, that was crazy, yeah. He's even threatening the patient. He's like, shut the fuck up. What was a horrible bit that he did to the taxi driver where he nicks his taxi? He was like, he's soaking wet, from jumping into a swimming pool. Because, of course he did. And, his boss wants him dead and stuff. the guy's like, "You're not getting in my cab like that," and he just pulls him out and goes, "Al Qaeda, Al Qaeda,"
Yeah.
and a lot of people
God.
dogging. You're like, "Good God, this film,
dated.
it's oh my God, I just can't believe it got made. It's like an offense to all the
There's
races."
no way you could make this film now.
Apparently,
Absolutely
they're trying to
no way.
make like Crank 3. I don't know
Really?
how the fuck it's going to get made. Like this
There's no
film,
way.
yeah, no, this film is insane.
I feel like Jason Statham has grown out of this phase now. You know, he's doing a lot of like big franchise stuff. So
yeah.
I don't think he would want. I mean, the pay ain't gonna be that good, is it? Like,
No.
no thanks.
No, but this
I'm
film
done
is
with
daft
that
as hell.
shit.
Yeah.
I mean, have you got a favorite shot?
Do you remember even the bit like the last shootout is just absurd? There was some crazy things that happen in there, directing wise. Is one he pulls out his finger.
Oh
shoot at them.
I like that.
I like that. I thought that was really cool. And then they all think he's nuts, and then bang, and some guy's head,
That's nice.
and he's got like an army behind him.
I mean, there are some moments in this film that are really good and quite satisfying to watch, but there's just not enough of them.
Oh, I think one of the things that I thought was really satisfying is towards the end. It's weird, like this film is like it's all over the place, really, and it's breaking the fourth wall. I think, as you said, it's probably breaking a fifth, sixth. It's just doing insane things. It just doesn't make any sense. I think this film would make sense if you're on drugs. You know? I think we're missing part of the experience. I think we need to do a load of drugs and then watch this film. Maybe that's why it felt it was cooler when
Basically,
when you were in college. You were probably high.
a great university film, basically.
Yes, absolutely. But you remember the bit where the newscaster is like, "Those with sensitive children,
Look away now, yeah.
yeah, look away now." I thought that was great because it basically freezes him in the action. Then it's like, "Those with kids should walk away now," and then he blows off some guy's fingers. You're like, "What the fuck?" Yeah, it was just it's really surreal.
So, score for directing?
I want to give it like a really, because it's just so weird and nonsensical. But I think when we're talking about that, we're talking more the plot. The directing is experimental as hell. You know, he's just trying to do everything in the book and some things that aren't in the book. Just whatever, do everything crazy with the camera.
Screw the book. Throw it out the window.
Tear it up. Yeah. So I can't deny that some of the shots are like really inventive. You're like, the film itself is just nonsense, though. Maybe with directing, I'll go, oh man, I think I'll go. I'm trying to think. It's so difficult because there are some brilliant things in this. I think it's like a guilty pleasure. This is like a really guilty pleasure.
Definitely.
Yeah. I'd say maybe directing, I'd give it like maybe a fuck me, like maybe a 5.9 or something like that.
That's harsh.
It is pretty harsh, yeah.
As you said, I can appreciate some of the inventiveness of this film, and there are some genuinely really great moments to watch in this film, but there just are not enough of them, and some, as we said, some of it just makes no fucking sense whatsoever.
No.
And a lot of the choices is not great at all.
If you had a more coherent film and you had one of these scenes in it, okay, I can kind of get it.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh my God.
You just got to rein it in a little bit.
It is
well, not a little bit, a lot.
A lot. Like, what was it? We were talking about The Transporter being simple, easy to watch action film. This is about the same length as The Transporter.
Yeah, and both 90 minutes pretty much.
Oh man, this is hard to watch. I feel drained watching this film.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It takes all your mental energy to work out what the fuck's going on.
So I'll go 6.1, I reckon.
All right.
Screenplay then. Yeah, not much of a screenplay in this film, to be honest.
No. I think if there was a screenplay, he threw it in a blender, and whatever the hell came out is just like what they were able to piece together from the blended parts.
It's like he wrote like an amazing script. And then someone accidentally put it in a blender, and then they're like, "Oh shit! What now? What do we do? Put it all together in the wrong order."
Get sellotape. I think this makes sense. We got to shoot in 2 minutes. It's absolutely mental.
They're basically mixing up the hospital scene with Statham on a bike. Yeah, let's be honest, the script ain't great at all. I mean, at one point, he learns from the doctor on the phone that he needs to keep moving around and, and keep his adrenaline up. So what does he do? He gets in a slow-moving taxi, and just sits in the back of a taxi.
Yeah, and then he's like...
Good idea.
Yeah, then he's like fading. But his solutions are crazy, because he's like, crank up the music, crank up, and he's trying to dance in the car.
He's headbanging to Achy Breaky Heart, which is quite funny.
It's just so weird.
And then when Chev like steals a cop car and the cop like tries to hang on the back of it, I'm just like, what are you trying to achieve here? What are you trying to do other than make like a cool stunt and with like cool sparks going across the camera? Yeah. Other than that, it makes no sense.
I will say this, it's like, if we go back a bit even to directing, there is a really cool car chase scene where he's like shooting all these cars behind. But to me, I think it's ruined by the comedy of the situation, of like, he's getting head, you know? It's just so weird. It's like, who the fuck thought of this? It's like, this isn't exciting enough for him. He needs to have head to like, it's like, oh man, you can't believe what you're seeing when you watch this film. You're like, what the hell is going on?
But I mean, some of the lines are pretty funny, to be fair. I mean, so you know what I was doing? I was getting killed, you plum. The fact that he calls someone a plum is genius.
That's
I feel like that is from Statham himself, you know.
I like the bit where they corner him at a warehouse. They trick him to go to a warehouse, and they kill like his friend, that weird friend he has.
He's like a trans friend.
Yeah, his trans friend. Who was he's quite a strange character. Oh, do you remember when he was getting assaulted? His friend was getting assaulted by the bad guy's brother, and Jason Statham picks up his severed hand, which is attached to his gun, then shoots him in the brain, and then he goes, "Do you want to hold hands?" and throws him the hand.
Yeah,
that was grim.
Yeah, he says before that when he chops his hand off, I was like, "Oh, how do you like that one, tough guy?" How freaking awesome was that? You know, then chops his hand off, and then there's like a freeze frame, like it's a film reel. You know,
I
quite like that.
You know, it's one of these things. There are so many good shots, even when we were going to directing, but there's just so much craziness. It's just so much.
When his friend calls him, he says, "Oh, what are you doing? Driving through a mall. Cops chasing me." Don't pop a blood vessel, you penis.
Yeah. Do you remember when he was talking to his doctor? He was like, "Did you take the epinephrine?" He goes, "Yep." "You took the whole damn lot, didn't you?" "Yep." He's like, "You were only meant to take 1/10 of that. You're gonna die." "Yep." He goes, Is your heart beating fast?" "Yep." You know. He goes, Is your mind a little cloudy yet? Have you got a raging hard on? Yep. You know? It's just, oh man, it's so weird.
It's just ridiculous.
I like the bit where he was like, "What does it look like? I have the word written on my forehead," and like the word appears on his forehead.
Yeah. I love some of the insults he gives the bad guy in this. You haven't been right since your brother fucked you in 3rd grade.
Oh, well, you got matching necklaces. You really are faggots, aren't you?
Oh, God. Bloody hell.
It's horrible. Horrible stuff.
I think my favourite line, though, is when he's on the phone to his girlfriend and he's like, "I've been fatally poisoned. There's a problem. There's probably a psychopath heading over there to torture you and kill you as we speak. But don't bother getting out of bed. I'll be there in a flash. Maybe you can throw me up a waffle or something."
Oh, yeah, and then he uses a waffle iron to
burn his hand.
There's too much mentalness in this film. Do you remember also like the line when he goes to that, you know, the black gangsters and he's threatening the guy because he wants to know where, and then he buys like a load of cocaine, but it's not enough. You know, it's not enough for him, and he goes, "I know what I've got to do." "Well, what have you got to do, Frank?" "I gotta beat your black ass." And then he's like, "Do you guys want some white meat?" You're like, what the fuck?
Have you got a favourite line, though?
Yeah, do I have written on my forehead?
Oh, right. So what score would you give the screenplay?
Oh, my God. I think when it comes to just, like, the one-liners from Jason Statham's character, probably a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I guess so.
But, like, yeah, taken as a whole, I mean, the experimental directing is just a symptom of the absolutely...
bonkers script.
Bonkers script, man. It is. It's incomprehensible.
As we said, it's like at times it feels just like a Jackass film, and you're just waiting for all the crazy stunts, and then you get the story moves on. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he goes from situation to situation. All these situations are completely unnecessary, but you know, it's just like he's just an ass. You know, and they're so weird, and even the people that he comes across are just so strange. You know, it's just really, it's really trippy. Probably go like a 6 or something.
A 6?
Should I go that low?
That's generous.
That's generous?
For sure.
All right.
6?
I'll go a 5.
What, a straight 5?
5.2.
Yeah, I was thinking 5.1. Really, I think. It's not a great script at all, is it? Yeah. I mean, the only thing that really holds up with the script is some of the lines are funny. Some of them are ridiculously offensive.
Yeah. I think the offensive ones are funny because you go, how on earth did this get made? You're like,
yeah,
Jesus Christ. And as I said before, where you talk about script writing 101, the protagonist is meant to save the cat and everything.
Yeah.
It's like, this guy is he's just so unlike. He's just not a good guy.
Certainly in that hospital with the guy where he's following the guys in the hospital with the guy in the hospital bed going along the corridors. You're like, why should I care about this character?
Exactly. Why should I root for this complete knob? He's a complete knobhead.
Right, acting then. Yeah, I mean, Amy Smart at times is quite good, I think. If she's not, having sex in the street or giving head to a guy in a car. But after the car chase, like Chev basically lets out an entire clip of bullets on these goons after they've crashed and probably dead anyway.
Yeah. She should leave his ass. Yeah, she looks disgusted. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, the look of shock on her face is quite interesting, and you get this sense of, as we've just spoken about, like, why should we really care about this character? Why don't we focus more on Amy Smart and where she's at?
Do you know, I never actually thought about that, but I think that would have been a much better creative decision if instead of like following this absolute sociopath as he gets his revenge and is like burning the city as he does so, follow this girlfriend of this fucking lunatic.
Yeah.
She comes across as kind of sane until she goes along with this insanity and is like supporting her boyfriend. Like, dude, this guy is fucking nuts,
I guess that one shot of just her reaction to him killing those people, it just brings into question in the film, like, should I care whether this guy gets killed or not,
Yeah.
Just thought it was quite interesting. I like Jose Pablo Cantillo, who plays Verona, the bad guy in this supposed bad guy. Well, they're all bad, really. Let's be frank.
Yeah,
there are no good people.
Exactly, there are no good people. Because I don't even buy that. They try to make him more sympathetic at the end. Oh, he was going to give it all up for her. That's why he didn't kill Don Kim. It's like, fuck me, man. You've butchered and maimed people like for the last 2 hours. You're a real piece of work, Yeah, I do like the guy that plays Verona.
Yeah, he's just as intense as Jason Statham at times, mainly by getting wound up by him in his conversations with Jev, and especially the bit where he's in the car and he and he gets really pissed off and like starts bashing the phone on the car seat, and then he drops it. And then he quickly tries to pick up the phone again. It was quite funny.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah. You can tell he's really quite insecure and scared. He's scared of Jason, but he's also like a big man, and he's trying to be intimidating.
And also in this film, all the Mexicans are bold.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're only allowed to act in this if you cut your hair off and Mexican.
Yeah, basically.
If you're Mexican, you got to be bold. Sorry. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Well. Also, why, going back to the plot, why do they think it's a good idea at the end to inject him with more of that quote-unquote Chinese shit? Why do they think that's a good idea? Like, he survived. Just shoot him in the fucking head.
Yeah.
Like, take this guy out with a rocket launcher, because he seems to be bulletproof,
Yeah.
The levels of, stuff that he survives, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, this guy's got.
Well, they end up wanting to kill him, don't they, in the end?
Yeah, but they're going to inject him with Chinese stuff. Like, dude, it didn't work. Just blow him away.
Well, they see the error of their ways, I think.
They should see the error of their ways, but they're very stupid people.
Favourite performance?
Oh, man. I might go, like, was it Ricky Verona or something like that?
Jose Pablo Cantillo, who plays Verona. You going for that guy?
I think I might go Verona. There is so much Statham in this movie, though. Whoa,
I got to go Jason Statham as well. I'm like, just for the level of intensity he brings.
Yeah,
to this
actually, I think I'm gonna. I think I'm gonna go back on that and say Jason Statham.
Yeah, okay.
We always say, "Oh, it's his movie" and all this stuff, but it's like he is batshit crazy, from the beginning of the film to the end of the film. He is batshit
Must be
nuts.
really exhausting.
Good God, he's always just shouting and raving and going nuts and killing someone.
But I always find with like the big crazy performances, I think that's always easier to do than the subtle stuff. I think the subtle stuff and more emotional stuff is always a lot harder to do, rather than getting like really angry and crazy, in my opinion. So what score are you going with for acting?
This film is insane.
I mean, does it all hang on the sex scene in the street for you?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was the most authentic live sex scene. And I didn't think so. I found it funny where he's struggling to actually, like, now you can't get it up, and he's like, fucking hell. You know, that was so funny. It was like, you know, slapping it.
I thought you got quite excited there.
I am getting there. Even talking about it, I'm starting to hump away. But yeah. Oh, Christ, man. I don't know. 6.3 or something.
6.3, the highest score for this film.
Yeah.
Bloody hell. Yeah, as I said, I always think subtlety is a lot harder to do than outright big craziness. So
there's not much subtlety in this film.
So I'll go 6.2, I think.
Yeah. Man, this film is as subtle as a nuclear bomb.
Right, let's add up the scores then for Crank.
So we've given this a really bad score, but I've got to say, I'm pretty glad you didn't pick Crank 2. I think this is actually my favourite Crank. So I'm actually going down really bad on this. We should watch Crank 2 after this. That is fucking nuts.
Oh dear. 34.6.
Wow. Is this our lowest? Is this our
rock bottom?
Scoring? Is this our lowest scoring one?
By quite a long way, I think.
Wow.
Because, our lowest scoring one is in the 40s. So.
Good God. Well, that's one thing. That's one.
The transporter really kicks the Crank's ass in this episode.
My God.
Yeah, I have a terrible memory thinking this was good. But
No, I knew this was bad. I
think I was just a very excitable teenager.
Yeah. No, this film was mental. I did forget how bad it was and how crazy it was.
Next week, as The Woman in the Window hits Netflix, which stars Amy Adams. So we'll have a look at her best films. So it'll be interesting picks there. Thank you, Baz. You've been extraordinary.
Thank you.
And at times,
and you've been rather good.
good.
Yeah. I tried to beat you there. I think we said it at the same time.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I will tell you this one thing. Even though Crank is at the bottom, it was the most fun to review.
Yeah.
So give it that.
All right.
Anyway, see you, man.
Bye.
Bye.
That's it for this week's pod. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to find out more about the podcast or suggest future topics for us to discuss related to upcoming releases, let us know on Instagram at Film vs. Film Podcast and on Twitter at FVF_podcast. Remember, please subscribe. Pod signing off.